Leave Cape Town via the N2 highway and travel up Salaris Pass to the top of the Hottentots Holland Mountains, from where you can look back across False Bay to Table Mountain. And only 40 minutes out of Cape Town, you're in the wonderful Elgin Valley, one of the most exciting new wine areas of the Cape. It is a cool valley with an average temperature of 19 degrees Celsius. There is plenty of water here, with an annual rainfall of just over 1,000 millimeters. For over a century, Elgin has been apple-growing country, famous for crisp Granny Smiths and sweet Golden Delicious. However, the past 15 years has seen a quiet transformation gradually taking place in this valley. It is slowly becoming wine country, and well-known winemakers from traditional areas are starting wineries and investing in new vineyards. In the mid-1980s, researchers identified the Elgin Valley as a potential cool climate wine-growing area, similar to that of Burgundy or Oregon. Elgin was declared a wine ward in 1990. It was the first new ward proclaimed under our Wine of Origin legislation after the quota system had been abolished. The ward was simple to define because the surrounding ring of mountains makes an obvious natural boundary. Elgin is unique. It is the only wine ward in South Africa that is completely surrounded by mountains. The Elgin Valley is a sequence of undulating hills, some 300 to 600 meters above sea level. Whenever the southeaster blows, Elgin is covered in thick cloud. This cloud cover blankets the whole valley, bringing cool, overcast days and limiting the direct sunshine in summer to an average of 7.9 daily sunshine hours, which is very similar to the 7.8 hours of Dijon and 7.6 in Bordeaux. The soils in Elgin are primarily shale, brought to the Earth's surface some 400 million years ago. Weathered, fragmented and eroded over the millennia, many of these soils are well suited to vineyards. To date, there are just over 500 hectares planted to vine.
The very important thing about the Elgin Valley is that it has an interesting substrate. The Bokkerveld Shale is really where all the agriculture has taken place, but then the mountains around about are sandstone, and the fynbos here is really special. It is really the heart of the Cape Floral Kingdom. What we mean by that is that, in fact, there is a huge species diversity here. We need to have the natural biota around us from a mountain catchment, or in this case the mountain catchment and water catchment perspective. It also enhances, I think, natural type of pest control. Even though birds might damage grapes, they also eat insects, and so there should be a mutual benefit between the fynbos in this case and the wine grapes. The Elgin Basin and the mountains around Elgin, Groenlandberg, Kogelberg and so on are really the major hotspot mountains as far as the fynbos is concerned. And from that point of view, it is actually part of a world heritage, not just even a South African heritage. And it is something that we are custodians of, and we really do need to conserve every possible fragment that we can because of the high species diversity that we have in the fynbos of this area.
The Elgin Valley is one of the richest and most concentrated sites of plant diversity on Earth, and the farmers here have already committed thousands of hectares into a conservancy. The winemakers are passionate about what they do and equally passionate about the environment. The result? A truly remarkable relationship, which in a very few short years has already imparted a unique flavor to the wines of Elgin.
This is a very high potential vigor site, and we've planted our rows in a north-south direction with lots of sunlight interception, as you can see. The altitude here is about 420 meters above sea level. The vigor is our biggest challenge in this particular vineyard, and with the smart Dyson training system that we have adapted, I think we have definitely controlled our vigor. We have just come from the Bewley site where the clones that we used there are SB159 and SB316. We are now at the Milseta site and the clones we used here are SB316 and SB317. The altitude of this particular vineyard is 500 meters above sea level. You can see we have a different trellis system to the one that we have just visited. This is the vertical shoot position trellis system, and our cordon is a meter off the ground. As far as wine quality is concerned, this particular vineyard gives us the backbone of our final blend, and 50% of the grapes that were vinified from this vineyard actually ended up in the final Elgin Vintners Sauvignon Blanc 2005 blend.
We're in the what we call the mountain vineyard, which is higher up, southwesterly exposed sites. And one thing that's quite unique with this site is on the one side of this site there's a block of or there's a patch of Protea coronata which only grows on that site. It doesn't grow in any other place on the total farm. The different clones that we have is mainly sort of 216, 214, 316, 11. This vineyard up here is about 4 years old. We only took a second crop of it, although our lower vineyard is about 16 years of age. The wind direction here is mostly summer based is southeast easterly, whereas the wind's mostly northwesterly. While we're here, the southeaster is actually blowing, and it's got a great cooling effect, especially on this site. Here we've harvested the grapes about 3 weeks later than our lower lying vineyards, just showing the effect of the wind and the altitude, the height above sea level, what effects it has have. All the Sauvignon Blanc is grown on decomposed Bokerveld or Bokerveld shale soils, which gives them natural tendency to lean towards mineral characters also, which we find in our wines. The challenges of farming grapes at this sort of altitudes, where you're close to 500 meters above sea level, is definitely wind. If you compare the amount of wind that we have here to the lower parts of the farm, we definitely have more wind here. And that's why you see there's 4 movable wires, except we've got the cordon wire and 4 movable wires, so that we actually can train the canopy better, so that we so wind is a definite problem here. Obviously, because we have to supplement our irrigation, water is also a problem, because you have to pump the water from dams which is lower lying, so effectively that's more your cost of farming, of planting here, is much higher than farming sort of in lower areas on the farm.
Iona is a unique farm in the sense that we are located quite isolated, as you can see, amongst the fynbos, totally surrounded by fynbos. The proximity to the sea is only 3 kilometers, and therefore the cooling influence of that, and the altitude, we are 450 meters above sea level, makes it a very unique spot. Our soils are a lot more suited to Sauvignon Blanc, a little bit of Table Mountain sandstone. Those soils are generally quite poor and are suited to fynbos, but also do very, very well with Sauvignon Blanc. Our vineyards, we basically got a 5-wire trellising system. The age of the vineyards are 7 to 8 years old, which in this area is quite old. And we've got 8 different clones, mainly on Richter 99 and Richter 110 rootstocks. Those clones are mainly French clones, and I think the uniqueness of the site is that it is totally surrounded by fynbos. The farm itself is obviously, because the site is suited to Sauvignon Blanc, 70% of the vineyards are Sauvignon Blanc, and the balance of that is Cab and Merlot. And that style of Sauvignon Blanc, because we have this unique aspect, being on top of this plateau, on top of the mountain, gives us a very steely, flinty style of Sauvignon Blanc with the added flavour of the fynbos and the cooler influence. We're also quite unique in the sense of this cool site that one or two fynbos species or varietals only appear up here. The rudicula, which is the fleabos in Afrikaans or flybush, and then the marsh pagoda, which is found up here as well. And that's that ties in nicely. It shows the uniqueness of the site. We also have quite a lot of wildlife here: baboons, leopard, and lots of birds of prey. We're very lucky that we've got lots of birds of prey which keep away, obviously, the birds that eat the grapes, which works really well.
I started looking around in Elgin probably about 10 years ago as a possible site for mainly white wines. It's cooler than this area, and it just seemed like a logical place to extend our vineyards. Our cellar here in Stellenbosch has a capacity of about 600 tons, and we'd already reached our full capacity on our vineyards here. So we had some spare capacity in the winery, and Elgin seemed like a logical place to expand. I think the key to the success is in the quality of the vineyard material and choosing the right sites. Elgin is very hilly. You generally find lots of aspects even in a small property. You're going to have slopes that are facing north, south, east, west, you name it, you'll get it. There are also quite a lot of different soil types there, so the selection of a particular site for a variety is really important. What we have discovered up to now is that the soils are quite fertile, which is a viticultural challenge because we don't want the vines to be too vigorous, so we need to address that. So we need to just spend some time then, get to know the vineyards. I would imagine that there are going to be climatic challenges as well, because some years we are going to get a little bit of rain in the harvest time. We need to experience the problems and find out ways to resolve them.
This is our vineyard site where all the grapes from here is used for our mountain reserve Sauvignon Blanc. 480 to 520 meters above sea level, gravelly soils with clay underneath. It's really difficult farming with vineyards up here. It's quite extreme. We've got really bad wind problems. We had to change our trellising system twice. In year 5 was the first time we put a crop on this vineyard, and we almost pulled it out in year 4. But I think it pays off in the end, and that'll show in the wine. Another thing that makes it really difficult is the fact that we've got a lot of animals here. We've got buck, all kinds of buck that causes problems eating the shoots. The biggest problem though is baboons. We have to put baboon guards here from about middle of February all the way up to harvest. About 3 years ago, the one guard up here sat here with a radio, and he called me and he said, there's baboons. And I said, well, I can't come right now, I'm busy in the cellar. Pick up a stone and chase them away, which he did. And when I got to him, he was bruised on his leg, so the troop of baboons picked up stones and started throwing back. So they are quite aggressive. It's difficult, but we manage. What's in the bottle will prove that it's worth being here. It's fairly poor soils. It's not very fertile, very acidic, and that's why the lovely fynbos grow so well here. So we had to cart a lot of lime up here with soil preparation. But yeah, it's shallow gravelly soils with a clay base, so we don't have to irrigate as much as in other areas. In winter, it's the northwester which brings our winter rains. It's not such a big problem, but in summer the southeaster is really a big problem, and that blows from behind me up to the mountain. And we have to have teams in here almost constantly just to position the chutes, make sure that they're all in between the wires. So as far as labour is concerned, it's very intensive, and everything we do here is by hand. And in terms of the two sites, this is at about 520 meters above sea level. Our lower vineyards is roughly at about 350, and it definitely gives us two different wines. I think that gives us that distinct wine that we do get.